5:02. I will just call this CDA meeting to order and do a roll call. I'm not an official member, but we need to elect a chair in a minute or two. Sorensen? Gotsky?
Here.
Lidico?
Yep.
Chapman Johnson?
Here.
Bruce?
Yes, here.
We have a quorum. You all received an agenda. Can we just get a motion to approve the agenda?
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? If not, all in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. So we need to select a chairperson because the CDA has not officially met for 10 years or longer.
It's only been that long.
It kind of disappeared. So we need to find somebody to be the chair. Any volunteers?
I don't mind doing it.
Jonathan's willing.
Unless somebody else is willing. Happy to not, if somebody else wants to.
Sounds perfect.
Is that a motion, Kim?
That's a motion.
Okay.
Seconded. We'll get close now.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second to appoint Gotsky as the chairperson. Any other nominations? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Abstain.
And one abstain. All right. Jonathan, it's all yours.
Moving on to item B in the agenda items, reviewing the CDA committee purpose. Assuming that everyone got a chance to look through this before the meeting, are there any questions or conversations about it?
I'll just add, I put this together for the Common Council in July of last year, so and a few months after that, they did formally adopt the CDA ordinance creating the Community Development Authority. Ripon has a history of a CDA. It has been 11 years. It's been discontinued, and there is limited authority and power. So when we recreated the CDA, it was created to give this committee a larger authority and purpose under state statute to work collaboratively as well as semi-independently to promote economic development. Ultimately, it's created by the City Council. And you can see here, this is just the state statute that says a community can create one. Kind of more technical stuff there. Ultimately, the reasons the CDA is important is for urban revitalization, affordable housing, economic development, public infrastructure, community engagement. There's different roles and things that CDAs can do that generally have been under the scope of either the council or nobody. In our organization, as well as then there's funding flexibility, public-private partnerships, brownfield redevelopment, long-term planning, and neighborhood stabilization. So there's a lot of different aspects to a CDA. It doesn't mean it is going to be a fix-all or a committee that takes on all of the world's problems in Ripon. We need to be strategic, but also flexible and understand generally what the powers or what we can do. These were the reasons that the city really decided to do this. In addition to the fact that some of our previous efforts with economic development have changed over time. So we used to have a CDBG loan for economic development. It's been discontinued by the state and refunded, and that's how we have a senior activity center. More recently, pandemic relief funding and opportunities there. Those are pretty much over. So then you have TIF districts as well the city uses for economic development, but they're not everywhere. And then there's limited dollars everywhere else. So Certainly, this is not just a committee to give money out, but certainly when we want to participate in promoting economic development, incentivization becomes fairly important quickly at times, as well as, we used to have a basic CDBG loan that gave low interest loans for economic development, and it is gone. And so small business startups, things like that, there's really no mechanism or ability to help but for generally TIF districts. If you're not sure what a TIF district is, I can talk to you offline, just let me know, but pretty common. So we created this, the ordinance was passed. You are all the first members, so thank you. You have either been selected because of interest, expertise, past, what you do for a living, and bringing together different ideas from different sectors to sort of move this thing forward, right? I am not a voting member, but I will certainly be the individual that sort of brings things forward, works with you all to support the committee. And similarly, Craig T-Bon from Ripon Main Street has joined us. He has obviously a ton of tenure in the community and has probably been involved in CDAs previously, but has a vested interest as well in a major commercial corridor of our community. So we sit here sort of as just to help out and work with you all. Financial support, the city did give approximately $15,000 to start the CDA. So that is the Common Council's allocation. Not a ton, but certainly as things come forward, there are dollars within city funds that can help efforts as we bring them forward or have opportunities through room tax allocations, which we get the $15,000 from. There's affordable housing extension funds that are available. And then there's TIDS. We can go get loans through banks. We can transact property, sell land, make money, set it aside for other things. So there's a multitude of different things that we can, as a group, make this more financially sustainable. That is all I have about the CDA's committee and purpose. I certainly can answer any questions. Obviously, this being our first meeting and kicking this off, the expectation is just to get into conversations, see where we can focus, and possibly do a couple things up front. But we obviously want to be effective and set some realistic, projects, goals, etc. So if you feel that we need to bring in any outside help or we need to do any other planning, we certainly can look into that as well. But ultimately, the goal is to just start. And we've been talking about this for about a year. So to finally have a meeting is the first thing to kick this off, and we can kind of go from here. So happy to again answer any questions or have any feedback in the meeting or offline, let me know.
Does WIDA have a representative that says they serve the Ripon area?
Does the Wisconsin Housing and Economic Development, the H or the E?
The E.
The E, not the housing, but the Wisconsin Economic Development. I don't know if WIDA does. There's certainly reps, but WEDC has a rep.
Technically, I think WIDA doesn't exist anymore.
Right.
The E.
Right, so it's now Wisconsin Economic Development Corporation.
Yep.
And then that's Jonathan Bartz.
John Bartz, yep. So and we meet regularly with John Bartz and work through their offerings and programs quite a bit. So.
Just keep going. Sorry.
Is the meeting televised?
Yeah, I think so.
Why, didn't call me there?
Two questions from me and then one from Ellen.
Yeah.
Easy ones from me. The ordinance, is there a final one that's in here? Because it calls out 7 people, 7 members.
Yes, there are supposed to be 7 members, so we'll talk about that a little bit more. We
Okay.
do have to place 2 more members.
Okay.
So we do have openings for 2 more. We reached 5, 4 is a quorum, so I said, let's just start meeting because we want to get the right people on the board. And, you know, frankly, this can get very technical and intense pretty quick. It just can, depending on what we have going on. So we want to get the right people. And so we'll talk about that in a little bit.
Second, easy question. We got Craig here from Main Street. We're
Mhm.
also going to invite Chamber of Commerce.
We can
in the
invite
future
Chamber, yep.
to represent the rest of the city.
Yeah,
Okay.
if they so choose to participate.
Okay. All right. And then Ellen's question: would it be the purpose to develop a response team for business attraction and retention?
If that is what this committee would like to do, certainly we can do that.
Yeah, so in the past, when Ripon had the RCDC, Ripon Community Development Corporation, there was I don't remember, it might have been called a Ready Team. So, but it's sort of like what you and the mayor and a couple others have started, but basically just like a liaison with businesses and larger businesses to find out what some of their salient issues are and just hopefully just get ahead of somebody closing.
Mhm. If that's something we want to talk about and form, I know a lot of times in terms of a ready team or response team, depending on the situation, it's generally going to be, you know, downtown wise, it's Craig and myself, or, you know, a group of that. If there's a bigger need for industrial and a school district, we could talk about, yeah. Yeah, college, yeah.
So, and we might be able to maybe assist with it. Maybe it's not a CDA thing, because technically was it a staff thing that started to take place? No, I mean.
What we do a business outreach program, so.
Right, yes.
So more recently, we started a program where, with the chamber, depending on who goes in, we'll go and do small or business development outreach meetings. So we rolled that out. It's been mostly the mayor, myself, and then Mandy Kimes from the chamber going to some of our larger employers. So I mean, and in those efforts, we've heard a lot of the same things. We've also done a lot of tours and things of that nature. So, so that kind of is something we could morph into something more professional or more robust. At the same time, too, Envision does some of those as well. Envision Greater Fond du Lac has had some success doing those, as well as you have to have the right people in the room, and it just becomes, you know, sometimes you get into very private conversations and about business, and so having the right people in the room is critical, and frankly sometimes less is more in that regard. So we've had some success there and have re-engaged some of our businesses, but I think the perfect example that I will use in the last year, you know, Signature Wafer is doing a $30 or $60 million investment in our community, and good for them. They were able to do that within their own means. But those are the types of things that we have to understand and get ahead of, so we can capitalize or work with them on that investment, because there may have been a lost opportunity to increase or apply for infrastructure funding or other things of that nature. So just being more open and having those lines of communication are critical.
And also, responsiveness is one big, huge key. Be ready when they're ready, because their time is precious. And again, back on the DRE too, it can even be you can have a success just studying or asking them to help enlighten us, or whoever visits, who are the supply chains that you need that are nearby, or could be nearby, or they don't know they're nearby, or who are their supply chain?
Yeah.
I mean, I'll see that all the time, but it's amazing to me that I have a lot of clients that they'll know their nearby supply chains, but they may not. I mean, there'll be somebody, an hour away and they'll go, I didn't know they did that. So that's where these kind of groups can help facilitate information sharing that can benefit the businesses.
And there is money in the state budget to bring back a version of the empty storefronts, the $10,000. But what I've been told is it's probably going to be more suited for creating RLFs.
Yeah.
So that might be a way for us to, get a little bit more in the kitty.
Any other questions, comments, concerns?
Can I just ask, I know you said that the CDA has not been in place for quite some time. Do we know what, I don't want to use a negative.
You can use a negative.
What was the, I just want to know what the, just so we, so we know going forward how to avoid, was there not enough infrastructure in place within the CDA? Was there not enough small businesses involved or coming to the table? Were we not bringing the right parties to the table? What was the downfall of it before, so we can kind of have a launching point where we go forward and maybe don't recreate those things that were off-putting to the buy-ins we needed?
Yeah, so
Does anybody know what the problem was?
Ellen does know, and I'll try to explain it the best I've been explained. And Ellen would explain it, but she can't speak because she's had surgery.
Okay.
As I understand it, the CDA was not given a whole heck of a lot of authority. Everything that they did had to go back to the Common Council. There, the purse strings, everything tied back, and effectively, maybe they were a halfway effective cheerleader, but they were unable to really, work within the state statutes and work within their authority to do much of anything. So, property ownership, loans, all of those things were not done, right? It was a no from the get-go. So in creating the CDA, and sometimes they do run its course, right? Like, and even this committee, 5-10 years from now, if it may not be needed anymore, it may run its course. That may happen, right? The goal is to not have that happen, but ultimately, that is what's explained to me, and the reason I brought it forward now is because there is a gap, there is opportunity, and there are needs, and we've lost all of the other mechanisms, in my mind, but a few, to really sort of try to put gasoline on the fire, right? To continue the momentum and to really take things to a different level. Doesn't mean we're going to, like I said, be immediately successful. The Common Council, from what I recall in the conversations, was perfectly okay with the ordinance and giving the CDA more authority. There are 2 members of the Common Council on the committee as well. So ultimately, that's what I think happened. Just a lack of being able to do much and a lack of resources.
Politics.
Thank you.
And politics.
Always.
So, is that it? So we'll try to avoid that.
Your economic development survey discussion? Is
Yes.
that the survey you sent out to
Yes.
us? Okay.
We can move on to that. I have just a simple report here. We'll go over it. So what are the top priorities? The top priorities were business retention and expansion, housing development, and infrastructure improvements, followed by quality of life enhancements, workforce development, and business attraction. So retention and expansion, housing, and infrastructure. So those were the top responses.
You're going to email this out to
I
us?
can email it out, yep. Areas of focus, the top 3. Sorry, I don't pay for SurveyMonkey, so it's kind of a pain to take. But main areas of focus, commercial corridors outside of the downtown, blight removal, housing development, downtown, and an industrial park development. Property acquisition, do you support the idea of the CDA acquiring property? It's a unanimous yes. So, programming, please check the programs that you'd like to see the CDA create to assist business, retention and expansion, new small business development, economic development revolving loan, facade improvement grants, business incubator program, discounted property sale program, business pop-up program, and other, which the other was a community housing partnership with nonprofit. So you can kind of see what was the highest priority. Which sector do we believe we should main focus? Manufacturing, retail, and tourism hospitality were the top three, followed by technology. Other response, we received one for first contact folks in Ripon looking or knowing how and where things located, guide to visitors.
Ready team.
Ready team. Yep, so that's the ready team concept. So manufacturing, retail, tourism, hospitality, I think that's pretty standard, but and then what do you see the biggest challenges? Lack of loan grant program, competition with nearby cities, small business development and retention, as well as attracting more tourism and therefore business, workforce, changing culture to have folks embrace thoughtful change. Projects that may take on specific include the Roosevelt School redevelopment, 124 Jefferson Street. If you don't know where these are, the Roosevelt School is on the kind of south side of town, south central part of town. It's been vacant for many years. 124 Jefferson is right next to the library. The city actually already owns that site. Downtown improvements and then industrial park expansion. There was not any other responses to other. And I apologize if I just picked a few. These are things that have just been either I've worked on or had communication with. But ultimately, there are a couple decent, potential projects on here. So I can forward this response out and you can see. But generally speaking, I just wanted to, get this out there and open a conversation again. I think there's enough in here to begin, working on some things, but it's, if you want to go to a specific question, let me know. If you have any comments, let me know.
The Roosevelt School, has conversation happened with the owner of Roosevelt School yet?
Yes, so I have had conversations with the owner. Frankly, there's a willingness to work with the city. I've engaged developers in a concept or trying to get somebody to see if they'd be interested in acquiring it. There are specific WIDA with an H programs and other programs available to assist. But that is one that was bought. It's been vacant now for 25 years. So, generally speaking, if something is vacant for 25 plus years, you're looking at some problems.
I'm fairly certain that Chris has done some things with it.
Yeah.
And may have had heat in parts of the building, so it may not be as bad as, what that 25-year period could be.
Yep. So we don't know the existing condition of it, but we're in the final few years here, folks. Frankly, I mean, it's either do something with it or it's it's not going to be worth salvaging, right? It's just 30 plus years of being vacant. It's that's a third of its life. So we've had conversations there. We've pushed it out to developers. I have more that I'm going to engage on it, But ultimately, that is one that the city and possibly this committee, probably this committee is going to have to take the lead on.
How many square feet is that? Roughly, just ballpark.
Probably, probably 20,000 per floor.
I would think so. I've sent it out. I just can't recall. But it's kind of odd. I don't know how many stories there technically
I
are.
think it's like 2.5, one lower and then 2 upper.
And it's on, I think, 2.5 acres, maybe less. There's not a bunch of buildable lots there. I have pushed it out to certain developers in the area. Ultimately, the building is a little small for some of the bigger, contractors or redevelopment companies. So it's just, I've gotten some initial feedback from the fishing I've gone on with it. So.
What about the old Only Her building from Ellen? You said it's in a brown site?
Brownfield, which one's that?
Oh,
By
yeah.
by Imagineers or
Oh.
it is Imagineers? Oh,
I think it's in arrears.
yeah. There are 2 properties in downtown that are from what Craig and I have talked about in the past. One being the old radio building that is actually, I believe, for sale, but it's been semi-condemned. Mold, yes. And then the other one, I don't know where that one is. The old radio station building was being foreclosed on by Fond du Lac County, but it just was listed for sale for $60,000 by a realtor.
Yeah.
They're trying to short sell it, I believe.
Does that include the treasure?
No, that does not include the treasury, just the small building. So if that one, if you're not Kim, that one is next to the old bank treasury building, the big white building downtown. There's a small one. Sven's is next to it on the other side. That one's in.
Yeah, Craig had talked to my husband and I about that one, so we were, and he thought it was in that semi-condemned mode, so.
Yep.
Okay.
So that's one
American Family building?
that wraps around.
Yeah.
It kind of is a weird property line.
Okay.
Swiss Monday. Used to be. Mental health groups.
Collaborative Wellness was there.
Oh, okay, all right.
Yeah, so it's probably about 2,400 square feet, maybe 3,000-ish. The good thing is I think condition is similar to, not as bad as the American House. So with it, we took a quick look at it and, it's just clean it, just like the American House. So it's not that big of an issue, just it'll take some cash up front to do the demolition and the remediation.
Did the old community church downtown sell? Or are they still
Not
selling
yet.
it?
And then the other site, the 124 Jefferson next to the library, this city owns that. It is a contaminated site. We're working through with consultants in the DNR and WEDC to pursue funding to get that cleaned up and raised. That could be a challenge depending on a few things, but that's a brownfield site that could be redeveloped as well. There's probably a few other properties the city owns that could be used for redevelopment or sold. So those are the opportunities when we sell them. If we do that, those dollars I would propose when we sell them for redevelopment come back to this committee for dollars to seed fund other opportunities. So.
Can I ask a quick question, just to
Yep.
go back to the Roosevelt School real quick? Has there ever been any interest from the city in purchasing that property?
It was never really available.
It's never been for sale, but
Okay,
the general understanding that I have is that there is an opportunity to acquire it if somebody proposed buying it. So,
okay.
It's not all that much different than Central Park. central school.
Yeah, the central school, yeah.
Maybe a little smaller, but, and that was, I think 24 units totals, or maybe 24 with 12 additions, so a 36 unit. And depending on the direction, this would probably have to be, 24 units to make it cost effective for a developer.
Mm-hmm.
Unless it's a different course of action.
Yeah, and a lot of the WIDA programs and everything have a minimum of 16 or 18 units, right? So it's immediately, we may not be big enough in some of these developments. So that's where we have to be potentially creative and even maybe go it alone depending on the situation. The other thing we mentioned is the city did complete a hotel study, and attracting a hotel would be, or redeveloping a hotel would be another project that is on the radar as well. So
WIDA can't.
Okay, that leads to my next question, so, okay.
WIDA doesn't ever allow for an exception. I mean, a building's a building, you can't make an old building bigger than sitting there.
It's state statute.
It's state statute. I mean, the WIDA came out with about 3 new programs in the last 6 months, all from the state statute and the state budget. They're well intended, but in execution, they are very flawed. And I think they're working through that. For example, there's a grant for redevelopment like this, but you can't use TIF dollars in the deal. And so, if we really want to tackle projects for affordability, combining resources is far more effective than just taking one resource. So they did a downtown commercial upper remodel where you can get a tax credit of $20,000, right? Craig and I talked about, hey, maybe there's an opportunity to use TIF funds to incentivize someone to do that more, right? Like to make it even more affordable for rent and whatnot, but they don't allow it to happen. So it's frustrating to sort of see.
And their program by itself wasn't really attractive.
Yeah.
It's
It's okay. It's better than nothing, but it's not getting, I think, the play that they had hoped. So they may have to revisit it as a state legislature to better tailor it to certain needs within communities, because there's dollars directly allocated for rural communities that rural communities are going to struggle to access, whether it's access to developers or other issues. So not making excuses, it's just what we've run into. So
Don't make sense.
do you have another question, Kim?
No, that answers that for now. Everybody else is asking questions that I have listed as well, so we're moving in the right direction.
So in future meetings, can this body go into closed session?
This body can go into closed session to talk about the investment of public funds, yes, and on opportunities. So I mean, and that's part of this thing as well. We're talking about specific properties. It doesn't mean we have any interest or any deal to do anything with these properties. These are merely just opportunities that have been identified within the community.
It's much easier to talk about something that the city owns versus
Yes.
something that it doesn't own.
But maybe what I think I was hearing you also say, maybe I wasn't, but if we're talking about a property, we all have good ideas, well intended, I always hope, I'm sure, but sometimes we're talking about properties that people own, and you don't, doing that publicly, but there may not be an investment yet. If you're gonna, talk about a property that's going under foreclosure, well, maybe it is what it is. If the county is doing it, it's beyond the owner that was there, but I mean, what Craig is saying, sometimes if we're gonna have ideas about properties, a closed session would be a lot nicer, but you may not have the investment yet, so can you go into closed session?
No, and that's where we wouldn't do that unless there is a deal or a project, right? So we wouldn't do that unless there's a specific investment required. If there's an opportunity to acquire a piece of property,
You mean the investment application does have to have started?
Not
Just
necessarily.
that it
could,
needs public dollars.
basically, it could come to the point where it's like, oh, say there's a property for foreclosure that the city is like, oh, that'd be a nice site for redevelopment, right? We could go into closed session and talk about that, and then, you know, if there's an opportunity to acquire it, right, for competitive purposes. So we have to be careful there, obviously, remain within the rules for closed sessions, but ultimately, if there is an opportunity that, as basically the economic development director for the community, myself, if I see it as an opportunity, I will bring it forward. If there's something we want to talk about hypothetically, it's a little bit harder to justify going into closed session if it's purely a hypothetical.
Yeah, and so I hope anybody watching this, or we amongst ourselves, there's no cloak and dagger with me. I don't want to ever just take a chance of hurting the property owner, though, that we mentioned a property and an idea, and all of a sudden you're talking about somebody and it was their livelihood or their family or whatever. You know, we got to be so careful there.
And totally, and part of the reason some of these are discussed is because there have been ongoing conversations, right? You know, whether they've been public or not, or the city owns the property, obviously that's a lot easier to talk about. But this doesn't mean anything other than conversation. And frankly, this committee is focused, or should be focused on a lot, in the survey supports it, and everything supports it, is blight elimination and redevelopment of those properties. And we're talking about some of the most apparent blighted, you know, derelict properties in the community. Frankly, they are at that point, a lot of these. So anybody that drives by them can see that. So it's not a secret that these properties have challenges. Bringing forward developers or opportunities as they come, we will deal with it more in the closed session or in a private setting. So.
Anybody got anything else? We can move on to small business development grant. I know you sent out the draft of it.
So, we have some money, not a lot, but wanted to potentially get feedback on rolling out a program over the next couple months to assist with small business development. This would come from the allocation that the city council made. So, you know, at $5,000, up to $5,000, you'd be looking at about maybe the potential of doing 3 grants to start, but I don't know if there will be that demand. Ultimately, the goal really here in the thought of developing this is small businesses, helping them get on a stronger footing to start. I think what we're seeing a lot of, particularly in the downtown, and just in those smaller retail type or hospitality type businesses, is a lack of starting capital or starting funding that then puts them behind to start. And then it makes it harder for them to make it past year 2 into year 3. And that's a common challenge. Craig can talk all day about business success rates after year 1, 2, 3, but this is a more targeted approach to businesses of 10 or fewer full-time employees. We certainly can change any of this. They must be retail or hospitality based, so really focused on that to start. You know, we do like office and service-based businesses, but those are just different, and frankly, from the needs of the community, what attracts visitors, on and on and on. Service industries just don't bring people as much to the community. So they would need to be establishing a physical space in a B1 or B2 district. So that's downtown or within the larger commercial corridors, and then have viable business plan and work participate in entrepreneur or business trainings offered by Ripon Main Street or Envision Greater Fond du Lac or anybody else that's doing them within the community. So Craig has done some work with Envision to try to do some small business development programming, and that's where somebody coming out of that, giving them some seed money to help their idea and get it off the ground maybe a little bit faster was sort of the main thought behind this type of program. Ultimately, you can look at the rest of the program. By no means is this perfect. You can make any changes you want. The security in it, I'm no expert, but we would take security in it and it would be forgivable after a period of time, depending on what this committee would say based on the application. So at minimum, if somebody is here, say for 2 years, and they got, they stay in business, they're open, it could be forgiven. You could look at the application and say it's a little bit riskier, let's do 3 years, right? You could do whatever you want in that, but just kind of give some general terms and conditions. Overall, then if they close, they have to pay it back. They'll take security interest in equipment or other inventory. They got to apply with a business plan, a budget proposal, supporting documents, on and on and on. So, by no means is this a perfect program, but I wanted to start with something, and I'm open to any feedback or questions.
I guess the only question I really had, I don't really have a lot of issues with it, was the terms and conditions, bullet point 1. I understand why you put it. I really have a solution. I just don't know if there's a better way to put it. It just feels a little like open and subjective, right? And I get that that's the intent. I guess I prefer when things are a little more concrete, right? So you're not getting just the subjectivity of us evaluating it. So that's my only comment on it.
And this was kind of like, years ago we had a loan review committee that was helping to administer the revolving loan fund. So I think, this would probably be maybe a subcommittee or an activity of this committee that would basically run like a revolving loan fund.
This would be the committee that reviews everything. And I understand the point. The biggest thing is you got to have that feeling that this is not going to be just money thrown out the window, right?
Yeah, I guess I'm just thinking, like, if there's some baseline metrics, right? Like mortgages have, whatever your debt to equity ratio.
Mm-hmm.
If there's like some form of metrics, at least we can tie to it. I don't know what they are, but I'm just saying, right? Barring 7 people picking a favorite and then somebody else that's not a favorite and denying them. Right?
Mm-hmm.
So.
But ultimately, too, it's the reality is you could have somebody, and it may be the best or the worst idea ever, right? It's a risk. Somebody coming in and saying, like, I want to do, what are the, if you go to, what do all the downtowns have? Like, that show up for a year or two and then they go away, right? If you went to the Dells a couple years ago,
45
it was
vape shops.
vape shops, right?
Yeah.
We have ordinances that prevent certain activities within, but if like paintball, right? Paintball shooting range, right? Well, that's great, and then it turns into a year later it changes to an escape room, right? It's just you want to be, you just want to have the right, and that it's a hard one, right? But if somebody comes in and says, yeah, I did if they don't have some of these certain things, like a business plan, financial statements, all of these submitted, they're not getting in the front door anyway.
Sure.
So it's just kind of a catch-all, but I get what you're saying.
And even though
I think part of it is too that, you have to assess them on an individual basis, so it's also going to be tied into what the needs are in downtown, what the overall thought is as to where we sit. If you're just talking retail and hospitality, does this fit into the downtown matrix? Does it enhance it? Does it take away from another business downtown? I think as you look at who applies for these grants, you're going to fine tune off of that first off. We've had some great conversations with Craig, and you're right, he's just a wealth of information when it talks about businesses and success rates and how to go about it. And I think there's many of us that run businesses, and I think that will be part of the fine-tuning process. I do agree that sometimes things can get really subjective, and you're right, you don't want to pick your favorite, but I also think part of it's got to be how it fits into where the downtown is moving towards, and that it doesn't cross over another business so much that it could be the best idea in the world, but we certainly don't want to end up with cookie-cutter businesses that then start to water down the other businesses and their customer base.
That's where the business plan comes into play, so.
Yeah, it's just getting people to,
Yeah,
getting people to participate in
it'll all
the,
come out in that. You'll see it all when you see a business plan. You'll see exactly, I think that's when we get to really see exactly what the direction the person is going and what they're looking to do. And I think that's what I'm saying. I think sometimes when you're talking in, what ifs, it's really difficult until you start to see somebody's business plan, and then I think you'll see things fine-tuned quite a bit through that part of the process.
And having the loan helps. It's the carrot in developing the business plan.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's by having the loan, you get better quality businesses.
well, it is forgivable.
Yes, yeah. So
The goal really is to get the business to on a good, stable foundation and get them to years 2, 3, right? They have a far better chance of going to year 5 once they get to year 2 or 3, right? It gets easier over time, but so.
And have we had any interest in this direction in businesses that have looked to come in to Ripon, let's just say in the last 2 years, that are looking to look for grants, small business grants, or anybody that's sitting on the cusp interested in coming into any of the locations that are available?
What I'll say is, based on the pandemic funding and the $10,000 that was given out by the state, there were a number of businesses that utilized that program from the state. That is now gone. I think there's always a conversation that generally occurs, either with myself or Craig, when somebody is interested in downtown or interested in opening in the community. Is there anything available? And while it's not necessarily a make or break, this done strategically may be able to help us attract some of the things that we're missing. And frankly, this is by no means keeping up with the Joneses or other communities, but other communities are doing this or more, and so, it's just another potential carrot to get somebody to open here, or allow people like Craig or the chamber, when somebody comes to them, to say, hey, if you do this, here's this program as well, and you can apply. And so Craig has, I think, more intimate conversations with prospective businesses, particularly in the downtown. But there are some businesses or business types that I think would immediately be helped by something like this, or we could strategically engage them, or go to Craig's Rolodex or whomever's Rolodex and say, hey, are you interested in Ripon? So.
And actually, this program is probably going to do more for the future, because we'll be able to like commingle it with the Envision Fund and or Main Street funds, rather than just giving a small $5,000 grant, through the business planning entrepreneurship program. Now, if we can package it, now we have a $10,000 pool to work with, or maybe it's a $20,000. I think that the 15 to 20 is where we really want to be at some point, but at least this gets us closer to having something that will attract attention. So when we put out, whether it's a Facebook post or a press release or whatever the case might be, it'll attract a little bit more attention than just I don't mean to diminish the amount, but it's just 5,000. You know, I think, well, now when we commingle and we get 10, we've passed that threshold. That makes it a little bit more worthwhile.
At a future state, obviously, this is something we're just talking about now. I'm just wondering, would the city ever be in a position, I said we're on the city, but that we would be able to do like the 5,000 as a forgivable loan, coupled with another potential 5,000 as a low interest loan? Like,
Oh, there's no doubt, right? I think we'll see what the demand is for this type of program. We'll get some immediate feedback and then pivot one way or the other, right? If it's oh my gosh, we have 3 new businesses that took advantage of it, that's awesome, right? If we have 1 or 2 or 1, that's still good, but maybe it's not attractive enough, or we can pull funds from a different area, or we get into the next budget cycle and we can allocate funds toward the CDA to do more, or we go back and ask the council for more funds to do something. This can be as flexible as we need it to be and grow with it. $5,000 is not a ton of money. I totally understand that, but the whole concept in this is just to get something started, and to couple with those other things, as well as try to maximize, the amount that's been allocated. So we're not just, giving it to one person, and then it's like, well, that one person got it, and there's going to be
And then
that.
we're done for the rest of the year.
Yeah, we're done for the year. Or and there may be people that get upset that, well, now you're giving people money. It's like, look, the intention of this is to help everyone, frankly, to get more business in our major corridors, commercial corridors. So we can't be afraid of that either. And there have been circumstances where people have gotten dollars in the past, whether it's city dollars or other dollars from, COVID relief funds, etc., whatever, right? We have to have a process that vets these appropriately, but at the end of the day, it's $5,000. It's not going to necessarily, it's going to make it easier, no doubt, for someone to start a business, but they're going to need to come also with some capital into it themselves, right? And I think that's where this kind of hits something nice right now, where you're not subsidizing somebody starting their own business, because you may be able to start a business for $5,000. Good luck sustaining it, right? If you get into those bigger numbers right off the bat, you could get into an unhealthy situation where you're funding somebody's full startup costs at $10,000, $15,000, $20,000, which would be more in a loan type format, I think. So this will evolve, and you could see this program start here, but morph to 10,000 with 50-50, one forgiven, one paid back, right? And then you take that other 5, you put it back into the fund, and it's a revolving loan fund, right? So it's just a work in progress.
Now that the interest rates have gone up, doing a 4% type loan might be attractive again for, maybe that's more on the renovation side of things, or inventory, who knows? I think it was 20,000 per job creation that we did the last time.
The CDBG was 20,000 per job created.
Job created or job retained. So I think we used it.
Yeah, and those were pretty, and those were at like 2-3% interest back in the day, I think. Maybe 4.
Yeah. So I think we had fixed them at 4. Initially, they were at 1% below prime, I think was the term. So whatever.
There was a period of time that was the case.
Yeah. But then the interest rates dropped so far that we just changed it to 4%, and then when they went below that, there wasn't any need for it.
When the bank rates are near the same, then sometimes it becomes less necessary. But
It's easier just to do it through conventional financing than to do something like this.
has Lud already looked over this?
Yeah, Lud's fine with whatever
Within
yeah.
reason, right?
Within reason.
Yeah.
So I was going to ask, I don't know if we can have a motion. You don't have discussion next to it, is it
It's-
okay to have a motion?
Yeah, you can do whatever you want. You can vote to approve it, you can make changes to it, you can bring it back at another meeting, you can think about it, whatever you want to do.
Do you have a section of the website already set aside for CDA that this will be?
We'll,
Launch.
we'll
Yeah.
likely do some announcement, and get it out there with a press release. It will not have to go to the full council. This is your jurisdiction. The power, yes.
Adam, can you shift that screen up just a little bit?
Sorry.
It's okay, thank you, thanks.
That's all right. Kim, did you have any other questions? Otherwise, I'd entertain.
No, that really answered it. I really wanted to, I just really wanted to see if we had businesses that we had in general kind of put this concept out to, or that had come to Craig and talked to him, and if we feel like, I like the fact of looking at 5,000 as a way to start, but agree that if we can do this in combination with others, I think that's a bigger carrot to dangle, and I think we may broaden the field of attraction. And I think, that's the direction to move in, so.
Who like sets that conversation for a prospective person? Is that you saying that there's a potential other fund available? Is that Mandy? Is that them
So-
looking it up?
Probably both,
Okay.
but certainly when a prospect surfaces, then sharing that there's a program. And so more than likely I'll be then sharing contact with Adam. Still trying to maintain confidentiality and
Yeah.
There's no doubt there's Rain Alignment from Envision is here every other week doing small business development, coaching, and entrepreneurship. This becomes, when she hears about this, right, she can put it in her thing like, hey, there's this other right? So as it evolves, or as you get it out, people, I think those main points of contact will immediately be able to get people in the right direction.
Yeah, you could ask to have it put on the Envision website.
Yeah.
A little flyer, maybe, not a crazy idea, to share with the other financial houses in town, so when the applicants maybe walk in a bank door or whatever, or credit union door, the lender might think of it.
Realtors, if you have people buying stuff, right? Like, just, there's, word will get out.
yeah, there's two businesses in the process of opening that probably would have did this. And that's just in my circle,
I would entertain a motion to approve.
I would so move the draft, well, do we call it a draft now?
You can call it, if you don't want to make any changes, you can just move to approve the
Move to
Move to
approve
program is
approve.
drafted.
Small Business Development Grant Program as
Right.
proposed. Second. Helen, second. Any other discussion? Kim, do you have anything else?
No, I don't, thank you.
All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same side? Motion passes.
Thank you. We'll figure it out.
Work that went into that, thank you.
There's about 1 million examples out there, so it's just,
Just copy and paste it random.
it wasn't all that.
Wordsmith. Change what pond to ribbon.
No,
Just use
it was-
chatty.
You can do a combination of things, let's put it that way. Try not to reinvent the wheel.
Committee membership, I'm assuming this is you asking if we have any.
Yep, just if you have anybody that you may think would be good on the committee, we need 2 other people, so we'll continue to try to meet. I don't know if we'll meet monthly, we can start doing that if you would like, try to set a time, or bi-monthly, we'll see. It'll kind of depend on applications and whatnot, but we do need to fill out the rest of it, so it's not just a heavier load on you original 5, just to get quorums and make things work, so. If you have anybody, let me know.
Okay.
Original 5, sounds like a band name.
Yeah.
Project updates? I don't have any new project updates since our last meeting. Do you have anything?
There's been a lot of development since the last meeting.
Not anything from the 11 years ago?
I know.
No, we'll continue to just look at opportunities, and again, if anybody has or sees anything out there, from an economic development, incentivization or a program you see in a community, please share. We can talk about it, and try to find resources to tackle some of the issues. So, there are ongoing projects, no doubt, but ultimately, if there's more that we can do, or you see something out there that's worth, investing in, or I have never seen, like, I can't find everything, just let me know.
So if a project would come up, can we fast track things? Can we have meetings? What's the publication process, or what's the notification
Oh, yeah,
process?
so it's 24 hours notice. So I just have to, if we have an application or we have something come up that we want to get involved in, it's 24 hours notice. I just need to get a quorum and we can roll. So that's part of, we can regularly schedule meetings at the same time. If there's an opportunity that can't wait, we can move.
I'm good with that. I was gonna say, not that we need to, I don't know what your thoughts were for a regular cadence of meetings, but we had a lot of discussion here. You're gonna put this out, you have 2 businesses coming in. I was gonna suggest we at least have a meeting next month.
Mhm.
And then we can go from there,
Yeah.
figure out what our cadence will be. And maybe it is every month, I don't know. We do every 2 weeks like we were doing on the fire board for a while.
Without the drama, right?
If you want to, does the second Monday possibly work? Just like July 8th, that'll be, if that can kind of work as a placeholder. I don't know if that'll work for everybody, but maybe by that time
Good for me.
we'll have another member, but somebody can miss.
Right.
But I think it's
Second Monday, same time, 6 p.m.
Yep, I think so. Unless Jeff would rather do it by 4, but Jonathan can't. 3.
7, 8,
Jeff wants a lunch meeting.
7 a.m. is fine.
Yeah, I'm fine with July 8th.
Okay.
So we'll say July 8th is our next meeting. Of course, I'm skipping ahead here, but if we find somebody before July 8th, send it to you,
Yeah,
we can have them.
Yep,
Okay.
yep.
Any specific project or agenda items from anybody you want to talk about?
If anything comes up, just email me.
I had one related to wherever. You said you reached out to some developers. I'm wondering if you've reached out to any like Mercy House or anybody that actually does income-based redevelopment specifically. So Mercy House is the only one I can think of off the top of my head. There's probably dozens more.
Yeah, I'll talk to you about that.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, I'm ready.
Later, John. Yeah,
that's fine.
some of the programs that you take advantage of to redevelop it would require income-based automatically.
Okay.
So, but I can tell you, kind of fill you in there.
Okay. Otherwise, I take a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
I'll second. Can I not second this?
Sure.
There, Ellen. Okay.
Ellen seconded? Okay.
All those in favor say aye.
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 All right.
Opposed, same sign. Motion is adjourned at 7:06.
Thank you, everybody.